Aloha, it is Dave Lawrence. We are live at the Hawaii Theater, and this is a very special show because joining me here, two of the champions of comedy, champions of cannabis for years. A cat I've gotten interviewed before in person, another guy who's just on the phone, and it's Richard Cheech Marin, Tommy Chong, Cheech and Chong, back in Hawaii, in the Aloha State. And thank you both. I really do appreciate it, Cheech. Aloha, brother.
Yeah, aloha. It's nice to be here. Always nice to be here in Hawaii.
It's great to have you, and welcome back, my friend. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man.
And it's just a huge thing that you guys would take a few minutes for us. We were talking the other day on the program about some of the particulars of the story. A lot of people were fascinated. They had never heard about the genesis. You guys getting together in Vancouver, unusual show. And if you can, kind of describe the kind of thing you were doing when you initially began performing together in Vancouver. If somebody was to see it and walk in, it's like a strip show, but it's more than that.
Yeah, well, the strip club was located in a very seedy part of Vancouver, in Chinatown. And kind of like here.
No, this is uptown compared.
But anyway, it was right at the end of Junkie Row,
okay.
And actually the club was a present. The guy that was running it before couldn't make a go of it. It was too rough. So he asked me and my brother if we wanted to take it over, and so we did. But I changed it from a strip club, straight strip club, into an improvisational strip club where we acted. We hired actors, and I had another partner and a guy that wore a suit and tie. He could be play the cop parts, okay. and then we had about 4 or 5 beautiful strippers, and the straight guy his wife found out what he was doing and made him quit. And so I was looking for a straight man, and this mutual friend of ours, Russian.
Ukrainian.
What's that?
Ukrainian. Ihor. He was Ukrainian.
Same thing. Anyway, in Canada.
Say that right to the camera.
In Canada, the same thing. Russia, Ukraine, what's the difference? Schmengis. Anyway, they're Schmengis. And and anyway, he introduced me to Richard. Richard was a young kid, about 23, and he hardly had any pubic hair. He was so young.
I had 3.
3?
3 pubic hairs. Yeah.
And no Cheech yet.
Not yet. Oh, well, I was Cheech to my family. That wouldn't come later when we were trying to figure out a name for us. After the group broke up, we stayed together and we had to come up with a name. At first it was Tommy Chong and the Shanghai Junk. I was the Shanghai Junk. And they said, well, that's not going to work. So when you got a nickname, we tried everything. Richard and Tommy, Marin and Chong. Yeah. I said, well, my family name is Cheech. Tommy says, Cheech and Chong, Cheech and Chong. That was it.
Wow, and it sounds so good too. And the marijuana jokes, when you're doing this bit, only one you had said was in the...
Well, the marijuana jokes came later. Up until then we were doing TNA jokes, little titty jokes and big titty jokes, and we did. I think we did one bit where we were getting high or something, but not like. So what happened? We went to L.A. And actually Cheech had to sneak into the country, but they weren't expecting a Mexican to sneak in from Canada. So
he had them full.
I walked in backwards and said I was leaving.
And so we got to L.A. and we just gigged around, as the Cheech and Chong, except we were called a lot of other things except Cheech and Chong, because a lot of we played a lot of black clubs, where they had a floor show and they would pay the comedians. And one time we were called Geek and Gank.
Gook and Gonk, yeah. It was hilarious.
Cheese. How about the?
In England, first time we went to England, we were going through customs, and the guy says, What are your names? Cheech and Chong. What do you say? Oh, they're part of the Cheese and Song group.
Oh, Cheese and Song.
Cheese and Song. Well, I guess they have cheese and then they sing.
What made the move to LA happen?
Nothing in Vancouver. We played one club in Vancouver. Actually, it was another kind of a black. Yeah, it was a black club. And the week before, they had T-Bone Walker playing one of his last gigs. In fact, that's where we got one of the bits. Blind Melon Chitlin was taken off T-Bone Walker because he was so drunk. They had to put the guitar, sit him down, and then put the guitar on his lap. And the guitar was out of tune because they were traveling, and they were playing the gig, live. And he was playing this guitar that was so out of tune. The bass player was playing with one hand and trying to tune T-Bone Walker's with the other hand. And then at the end of the tune, he got a standing ovation.
You're thinking these people are buzzed.
Oh, I mean, because he was an old guy, and we laughed. We saw that, we laughed, and then I think the next day or so, we borrowed enough money from friends and relatives, and we got tickets, and we came to LA.
I was actually wanted by the FBI at the time, so sneaking back in the United States is a little problematic, and so
For dodging the draft?
yeah, well, yeah, and so I borrowed my buddy's ID, his driver's license, with his picture on it.
And it worked.
Oh, there, little Brown. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, they didn't look too much.
Let me back in the United States. I swear to God that happened. Bill Knorr is his name.
I don't
Held
believe
it up right there, Hey.
Well, in those days, it was a lot different than now, huh? With your TSA, all these different things.
They didn't have computers in there. The funny thing that happened when I was leaving the airport, and I had to get a bunch of courage up to, go past the thing. So I went to this Irish pub, the Shamrock. They got liquor there, and so I drank a couple of vodkas, just kind of like, and I come around the corner to go to my gate, and coming out of one of the gates was Led Zeppelin. The band Led Zeppelin, and that's the first time they'd ever been in Canada or the Vancouver, and there was nobody there, not a person, and so they pretended like they were beating away hundreds of groupies, get out of here, no, not now, get out, and they're laughing their ass off, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, and I heard this guy, there was nobody there. I was just watching this because I knew who they were, and okay, time to go across the border. Hey, I'm Bill Knorr.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It sets the tone when you see stuff like that. You mentioned, and we didn't do it in the phone, or I wanted to hear about the Black American culture, its impact. You've already referenced it so many times. I think of like Red Fox. I think of the great Richard Pryor, folks who, when I think of the sound that was in some of the records, when I know your background with Motown, plug us in on how that really factored strongly in as an influence.
Well, the club, the first club that we had, the Moneymaker was an after-hours club, and it was a black club, basically. We had a great singer we got brought up from San Francisco named Bobby Taylor. And Bobby Taylor sang as good as Marvin Gaye. That's how good he was. And then we got discovered by the Supremes. The Supremes came to town, and they came down to our club, and Diana Ross heard us. And so she phoned Berry Gordy, who she was having a little affair with. And Berry Gordy literally flew from Detroit to Vancouver, saw the group, signed us, and then forgot about us.
Yeah. Just filed you like so many bands.
Yeah, that's all. He signed us, and then he went back to, he schlepped Diana Ross, and then he went back to Detroit, and so here we are. We had a Motown contract, and so what we did, we gigged our way from Vancouver to Seattle. And we played a big crowd there, and then we went from Seattle to Los Angeles, and we played a historical gig because Chaka Khan reminded me. She saw me on the street in New York one time, and she goes, "I saw you in the Vancouvers at Maverick Flats," and we were one of many groups that were playing that night. And the one group that was like the house band was called the Seven Souls, and these guys were like the hottest band in LA. And so they heard about that we were coming, and they heard our reputation about how good we were, because we had the best of Vancouver musicians backing us up. We had Robbie King on organ, and Eddie Patterson on guitar, and Doris Maxwell on drums. I mean, top notch sound. We had the best sound, and we had a big B3 organ that we played in, and so the Seven Souls, who had a guitar and drums and a bass player, and they sang and played too. And so they insisted that Vancouver's go on first. They said, we're not going, they can't follow us, so that Vancouver group, put them on there. We went on, and Bobby Taylor, he had been singing soul longer than soul existed. And so when he got on and he sang, and when we did our bit together, and Wes Henderson on bass, by the way, we killed that. And the audience was, the Earth, Wind and Fire was there. The what was that? The other group.
Funkadelic.
Think of it.
Fine. I don't know.
5 of them.
Two stoners, no waiting.
Five blind guys
From Alabama?
Alabama.
Anyway, they were real famous. Chaka Khan. Anybody that was anybody in L.A., everybody that was anybody was there.
Really cool.
And we blew the lid off that place. Fifth Dimension. It's a Fifth Dimension. That's who we're there. And when we finished, I mean, it was just, everybody was just in awe, like Barry Gordy was. And so we did that gig with the Seven Souls. We heard them fighting after they were up in the dressing room fighting because they had to go on after us.
They didn't like that.
Well, the club emptied after we left. The Seven Souls got on, played a few tunes, and everybody had left.
That was Sonny Charles. That was the singer, and Louis, who was the drummer. Yeah.
Wow, you must have equally really special memories of like those times, and also when this thing evolved into where Tommy's talking about, and then taking it to theaters and then arenas almost, right?
Well, yeah. When we first came back to LA, I mean, we mostly played Black Cubs because Tommy knew from the Chitlin circuit that he was on, and then we played this one called the Climax 2 Club, and it was an after hours club, and it was giant, and there would be people in line at 4:00 in the morning to try to get him. And every night on stage live, you could see Ralph Mathis, who was Johnny Mathis's look-alike brother, who sang all his tunes, Cheech and Chong, and Earth, Wind and Fire. Yeah, who were just starting out, and they were just trying to figure out what they were doing.
It's amazing the evolution through the years too, because it gets past all of that. The movies come out. Did the movies bring in a new crowd of folks when the stand up? I mean, was it an evolution in your demographic too?
Goers.
that makes sense.
Well, we stopped touring when we did movies. And so when we went back on the road, what happened after we did Up in Smoke, we split with our management. And we were without money because even though Up in Smoke was a hit, we got screwed on the payment, and so we were kind of broke, and we had to go back on the road, but we had to get our act together, so we went to the comedy club, the Comedy Store in L.A., and we did a week there, and it was another historical.
Pauly Shore's mom or whatever?
Yeah, and Mitzi. And Pauly was a little guy. He was in the light booth at the time watching us because he was too young to be on the...
Down there, right?
Yeah, and we played, and I'll never forget, after we did the show, Richard Pryor greeted us as we got off the stage, held out his hand. It was the biggest...
accolade and some.
Yeah, it couldn't get any better. Richard Pryor, we did our show, and here he is, paying homage to Cheech and Chong.
Oh, it's a huge thing. That's and when you mention all these stars and you think of like the Nash Bridges years, and then you got him on the program, how did that work that he ends up there? And also Don Johnson, was he a fan of the work when he first was? I mean, what was his reaction to working with you?
I knew Don from early days when we were both kind of coming up, and he was a young up and coming actor, and we were introduced by this group of girls that we knew, and we used to hang out a little bit, and so then the next time I saw him, he was Don Johnson and the thing, and it was good. So when I got on the Nash Bridges show, Jesse, Don's son, goes, and he was young. He was like 15, 16, and he says, "So Cheech is going to be on the show?" He says, "Yeah, I've known him for a long time. We were buddies." He says, "So did you ever get stoned with him?" And so he says, "Well, yeah, I'm sure we did during this. So you pretty much smoked with the king, huh?" Yeah, well, Donnie. Yeah, he was old, but he was nobody from, so we were just kind of right off into there, man.
And who was the idea to get him on there as a guest?
It was Don, actually, Don, because he wanted to get Tommy and Philip Michael Thomas, is that what's his name? Philip Michael Thomas, on the same show, and that's what we did. It was a good show, and they did good numbers.
It's huge stuff. And I know your time is tight, so we'll wrap it up. Just a final question. One of the favorite bits, I played it on the air when I did your phoner interview, the Basketball Jones. Where did that come from? Is that
We were going to the Lakers game, and we were riding with Jack Nicholson. And Jack was very impatient. He hated to wait in line. So we're going to the Forum, and there's a big lineup to get into the parking structure. So Jack drove on the wrong side of the road, on the oncoming traffic side. And he was going about 70 miles an hour. And Cheech was in the back seat. He was singing, I got Basketball Jones, got Basketball Jones.
There was a song called Love Jones by this young group. I got Love Jones. And I was when we were going to the basketball. I got basketball. I was scared shitless.
because of Jack's drive?
Yeah, he was driving on the sidewalk on the wrong side of the street, man. Like, I guess he was charmed, so.
And so I remembered that riff that he was singing. And so the next day we went in the studio and I
Started jamming.
well, I started figuring out the chords on guitar, but I'm not, that great of a musician, so I kind of screwed the chords up, which was great because then we didn't have to pay any royalty. It became an original song.
We played some chords on piano. And I was surprised that you knew any chords on piano because it was real simple chords. And he started, so when we actually finally made the version that we were going to have real musicians on, Carole King came in the studio, and she listens to it, and Tommy plays a song where she goes, "Those aren't the chords to Basketball Jones." Oh, okay, well, it's the one we're using.
That's comedy, some big names. And the final one, Santa Claus and His Old Lady. That's like one of my favorite things as a kid. And
Santa Claus and His Old Lady was a one-take thing. We had planned to do a Christmas song, a Christmas bit every year. And that was the first year that we were recording. We said, okay, we got to do one for Christmas. And so it was like a one-take thing. We just whipped it off, and we never got around to doing any more.
you didn't need to.
We didn't. No, that's true.
That's such a classic jam, and it will always be in the. And I mean, just like the images of it, of like the elves with the magic dust. And
You came to the right show tonight, dude.
it's Richard Cheech Marin. It's Tommy Chong. Real privilege to get the two of them together here. Legendary guys, inspiration to so many people. God bless you with all you've been through and surviving the incarceration, the cancer, everything. You're just a hero to a lot of cats, and I just hope you feel the appreciation and the love on that.
You want to see my bag?
Which your satchel?
No, my.
Pass on that one.
I call it the Donald.
Oh,
It's always full of shit.
dude, out of control. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. We'll see you guys.